What's up guys, Kenneth here checking in about halfway through the semester. I know it's been a little while since my last video, but I kind of wanted to wait until some of my midterm grades came in so that way I could talk about those and how I studied for them. And so I know you're dying to know, what were the results? On 3 of my 4 exams I got above 90% or above. Then on the 4th one, kind of slid a little bit, got an 80% on that one. But overall, I'd say the methods I used to study in my undergrad worked pretty well for me in this first round of PT school exams, and so probably going to stick with those for now. Turned out the anatomy lecture exam and practical, which were the 2 exams I was most worried about after my first week of class, were my best scores. I imagine that's partly because I was so worried about them, so maybe I studied more for them. But either way, I was really excited about those. I'm actually going to talk about my study methods a little bit later in this video because I actually have another anatomy lecture and lab exam next week. And so tomorrow's going to be Saturday. I'll probably be at the local library. I'm going to be studying there. I'll do some filming, show you the process a little bit more in detail. And also today, it's been a long day. It's been a good 5 hours at school between the open cadaver lab and practicing our patient fundamental stuff, so like patient transfers. It's about 7 o'clock now, so I'm not going to hit the books too hard tonight. I'm actually planning on meeting my friend at the gym, and because, you know, as PT students, grad students, students in general, getting your exercise, very important. Then I'm going to come back and just hammer out some Quizlet flashcards, because we have over 60 muscle origin, insertion, action, innervations to know for the thigh, lower leg, and the foot, and so those are going to need some work. And if you've never heard of Quizlet when it comes to flashcards, you need it, and you've been doing it wrong this whole time if you haven't been using it. So here's just a quick look at their website on the computer, and also on the tablet. Yeah, you can see they have a few different things you can do. You can play different matching games here. I don't know, I usually just go to the flashcards, and then what I like to do is just go through it. You can change whether the definition shows up first or the term shows up first. And then you can also star ones that you don't know well, and it'll put it in a separate deck, so that way you can just go through the starred ones. But yeah, it's really nice to have these. I hate really thick decks of like actual note card flashcards. It just gives me, it makes me really anxious. So I like doing it this way. It's a lot neater, and I can take it anywhere I go, really. Alright, here we are on a beautiful fall Saturday, about to head into the library. I live in a pretty small town, so at my local library it's never really busy, and it's pretty easy to find a nice place to sit down and study. The only big difference that's been taking some getting used to is the hours. It's not open past 8 during the week, and today it's only open until 4. It's closed Sundays. I don't really like the library at U of M Flint campus either. It's a little bit outdated, and for me personally, my laptop battery is really terrible, and so I need to be by an outlet, and unfortunately all the outlets are kind of far away from all the big study tables, so for me that's just kind of annoying, but that's just me. I'm a little picky, I'm also a little bit of a night owl too, so these library hours, my local library on campus, might not be a big deal for a lot of people, but for me I get my best studying done late at night. Alright, so here we are. Alright, so I've been working here about an hour or 2 now, and I just want to show you really quickly what I've been working on. I learned pretty early on in my undergrad that I had a tendency to read slides but not understand them or necessarily retain all the information. And it kind of goes along with the concept of recognition versus recall, where if I was, where just reading my slides would be enough to recognize the right answer on a multiple choice test, but if I had to recall the information and write it out myself, I probably would be at a loss. So what I decided to do, and what I do now, is outline the lectures or notes in my own words, usually in shorter and easier to understand sentences. And that way it forces me to understand exactly what I'm reading and helps me to remember the information also so I can recall it on a test. So for example, in this lecture we're going over the peripheral nervous system, which includes the somatic nervous system and the visceral nervous system, which also contains the autonomic nervous system. And then that gets further broken down into parasympathetic versus sympathetic. And it's kind of overwhelming. It's a lot of information spread out over a couple pages. And so what I do instead is take it and put these ideas together. So peripheral nervous system, somatic, visceral, then autonomic, and then underneath autonomic I can organize it into parasympathetic and sympathetic. So here's an example of one of my end products. Yes, the font is very small. I actually use the smallest margins possible and then size 7 font because just like the note cards, it's kind of a mental thing. I don't like to have a lot of pages to go over, a thick packet. I'd rather just have, a few pages with really small font. I don't know, that's just me being weird, I guess. But then once I have my printout, I like to make little mnemonics or acronyms to help remember lists of things. So this was for my first exam. So connective tissue gets further broken down into blood, bone, cartilage, and fibrous tissue. I highlight, just go over a bunch of different things. And by the time I'm done making this outline and annotating it and just reading over it, I usually feel pretty good for the test, and so far it's worked out pretty well for me. Another thing I like to do once I have my outline is to take a whiteboard. See, this one my mom originally got me to put on the back of my door in my freshman dorm, but I never opened it until this semester. But I can take something like this, so we have the lumbosacral plexus, can practice drawing it out and labeling it, or I can take one of the objectives from my lecture slides, like, what do we have here? Be able to list the boundaries and contents of the popliteal fossa, so I can just give myself the objective, practice writing out the list of the borders and the contents. So that's going to just about do it for this video. One thing I did want to say, I was a little hesitant about the cadaver lab when we first started the year, but I noticed that it is unbelievably helpful in being able to understand the origins, insertions, actions, innervations in the body. When I took my musculoskeletal anatomy in undergrad, all we had were maybe 1 or 2 plastinated models, and that was maybe like an upper body, like from the waist up, or little things like that. Nothing quite as extensive as a full cadaver, and then a bunch of plastic models, and it didn't really help me too much in understanding the muscles in relation to each other, especially in being able to just pull on a tendon to see where it goes, or following blood vessels and nerves up and down the limb with the associated muscular, bony landmarks. And especially for me, I'm a visual learner, so it was immensely helpful. And of course, having an excellent instructor is great for that too. And I really like our anatomy professor we have. So if you're nervous about the cadaver lab, or if you're in a cadaver lab, anything like that, just know it'll definitely help you out in the long run. Hopefully it won't be as long between this video and my next video, but until then, wish me luck on my exams, and I'll see you next time.